Horror movies have always shown the things we're most afraid of, but in the last 10 years, the genre has become deeper and more meaningful. In this visual essay, I'm looking at three major horror films: Hereditary by Ari Aster, Get Out by Jordan Peele, and The Conjuring by James Wan. All three were very popular and changed what people expect from modern horror. I chose these movies because they don't just use jump scares, instead, they use horror to talk about grief, race, faith, family, and the unseen. For my analysis, I'll focus on three main parts of how horror works in these films: cinematography and lighting, sound design and music, symbolism and subtext. Number one, cinematography and lighting. Cinematography is one of the most important parts of horror. It controls what we see, what we don't see, and how the movie makes us feel. Hereditary, Ari Aster uses slow camera movements and wide still shots. These shots make the characters look small, stuck, and powerless. A good example is the dinner table scene, when the camera doesn't cut at all while Annie breaks down. This makes the audience feel the same tension the characters feel. Film critic David Edelstein said the movies turn domestic spaces into miniature dollhouses of dread, which matches Astor's visual style. In The Conjuring, James Wan uses lighting to create a classic haunted house feeling. In the basement scene, the darkness itself feels like the monster. Wan often uses a single light source, like a match or flashlight, to build some suspense. In Get Out, Jordan Peele uses bright, clean lighting to hide the horror under the surface. The sunken place scene uses centered framing and strange, dreamlike lighting to show Chris losing control. This mattered because each director uses the camera in a different way to create emotion. Aster uses stillness to build dread, Wan uses darkness and contrast to create fear, Peele uses visual metaphors to show psychological horror. Sound is just as important as the visuals in horror. It builds tension even before we know what's happening. In Hereditary, Charlie's clicking sound becomes a signal that something bad is coming. At first, it seems normal, but later it feels terrifying. The music by Colin Stetson is sharp and intense, matching the family's rising stress. In The Conjuring, James Wan uses classic horror sounds like cracking doors, whispering, and long stretches of silence. In the basement scene, in Get Out, the design is more psychological. Composer Michael Abels uses African vocals and unsettling harmonies to hint that something is off. Critic Justin Chang says the music creates an atmosphere of paranoia before the plot fully reveals itself. This mattered because horror doesn't just use visual to scare us, sounds plays a huge role too. Sound sets the mood, sound builds the tension, and sound makes the fear feel real. Modern horror often uses symbols to talk about deeper problems and fears. In Get Out, the entire movie is a metaphor for racism. The cultural producer shows how black bodies are controlled and exploited. Even simple objects like the teacup become symbol of power and control. In the Hereditary, the miniature dollhouses represent how the family has no real control over their lives. Annie arranges her models the same way the characters are being controlled by something larger. The movie's repeated decapitation imagery symbolizes losing identity and losing power. In The Conjuring, objects like the crosses, rosaries, and the witch curse shows the battle between good and evil. Wan uses these symbols to show both the protection and danger. Film scholar Carol Clover notes that horror often takes internal fears and turns them into objects or repeated images. And all three films do exactly that. This mattered because symbolism makes horror deeper than simple scares, and it also connects the real story to real fears like grief, racism, trauma, faith, and family struggles. By looking at cinematography, sound, and symbolism, we can see how Hereditary, Get Out, and The Conjuring push the horror genre forward. These directors don't just try to scare the audiences, they use horror to explore deeper emotional and social issues.